Good afternoon, and welcome to the 37th and final installment of my reading of S. Morgenstern's classic, The Princess Bride. Now, for this special occasion, I wore a special shirt just for you. You like that? I knew you would, and I'm sure if you like it well enough, you'll find one online. And if you'd like, before we finish this last installment, if you want to grab a coffee or a latte or a glass of wine or a hot toddy, go ahead and hit the pause button, then come back. And we'll get back to the story. But I won't stop recording. That's what the pause button is for. So here we go. I'm going to tell you something once, and then whether you die or not is strictly up to you, Wesley said, lying pleasantly on the bed. Across the room, the prince held the sword high. What I'm going to tell you is this. Drop your sword, and if you do, then I will leave with this baggage here. He glanced at Buttercup. And you will be tied up, but not fatally, and will soon be free to go about your business. And if you choose to fight, well, then we will not both leave alive. I expect to breathe a while, the prince said. I think you are bluffing. You have been prisoner for months, and I myself killed you less than a day ago, so I doubt that you have much might left in your arm. Possibly true, Wesley agreed. And when the moment comes, remember that. I might indeed be bluffing. I could, in fact, be lying right here because I lack the strength to stand. All that, weigh very carefully. You are only alive now because you said, to the pain. I want that phrase explained. My pleasure. It was 5:52 now. 3 minutes left. He thought he had 18, so he took a long pause, and then started speaking. Surely you must have guessed I am no ordinary sailor. I am, in fact, Roberts himself. I am, in fact, not the least surprised, or awed. To the pain means this. If we duel and you win, death for me. If we duel and I win, life for you, but life on my terms. Meaning? It could all still be a trap. His body was at the ready. There are those who credit you with skill as a hunter, though I find that doubtful. The prince smiled. The fellow was baiting him, but why? And if you hunt well, then surely when you tracked your lady, you must have begun at the cliffs of insanity. A duel was fought there, and if you noted the movements and the strides, you would know that those were masters battling. They were, and remember this. I won that fight. And I am a pirate, and we pirates have our special tricks with swords. It was 5:53. I am not unfamiliar with steel. The first thing you will lose will be your feet, Wesley said. The left, then the right, below the ankle. You will have stumps available to use within 6 months. Then your hands at the wrist. They heal somewhat quicker. 5 months is a fair average. And now Wesley was beginning to be aware of strange changes in his body, and he began talking faster and louder. Next your nose, no smell of dawn for you, followed by your tongue, deeply cut away, not even a stump left, and then your left eye, and then my right eye, and then my ears. Shall we get on with it? The prince said. It was 5:54. Wrong! Wesley's voice rang across the room. Your ears you keep, so that every shriek of every child at seeing your hideousness will be yours to cherish. Every babe that weeps in fear at your approach, every woman that cries, Dear God, what is that thing? Will reverberate forever in your perfect ears. That is what to the pain means. It means I leave you to live in anguish, in humiliation, in freakish misery, until you can stand it no more. So there you have it, pig. There you know, you miserable vomitous mass. And I say this now, and live or die, it's up to you. Drop your sword. The sword crashed to the floor, and it was 5:55. Wesley's eyes rolled up into his head, and his body crumpled and half-pitched from the bed, and the prince saw that, and went to the floor, grabbing for his sword, standing, starting to bring it high, when Wesley cried out, Now you will suffer! To the pain! His eyes were open again, open and blazing. I'm sorry, I meant nothing, I didn't. Look, said the prince as he dropped his sword a second time. Tie him, Wesley said to Buttercup. Be quick about it. Use the curtain sashes. They look enough to hold him. You'll do it so much better, Buttercup replied. I'll get the sashes, but I really think you should do the actual tying. Woman! Wesley roared. You are the property of the dread pirate Roberts, and you will do what you're told. Buttercup gathered the sashes and did what she could with tying up her husband. Humperdinck lay flat while she did it. He seemed strangely happy. I wasn't afraid of you, he said to Wesley. I dropped my sword because it would be so much more pleasure for me to hunt you down. Oh, you think so, do you? I doubt you'll find us. I'll conquer Gilder, and then I'll come for you. The corner you least expect, when you round it. You will find me waiting. I am the king of the sea. I await you with pleasure, Highness. He called out to Buttercup. Is he tied yet? Sort of. There was movement at the doorway, and then Inigo was there. Buttercup cried out at the blood. Inigo ignored her, looked around. Where is Fezzik? Isn't he with you? Wesley said. Inigo leaned for a moment against the nearest wall, gathering strength. Then he said, Help him up, to Buttercup. Wesley? Buttercup replied. Why does he need me to help him? Because he has no strength. Now do what you're told, Inigo said. And then suddenly on the floor, the prince began struggling mightily with the sashes. And he was tied, and tied well, but power and anger were both on his side. You were bluffing. I was right the first time, Humperdinck said. And Inigo said, That was not a clever thing of me to let slip up. I'm sorry. And Wesley said, Let us try to find some place to defend ourselves. At least perhaps we can go together. And Buttercup said, I'll help you up, poor darling. And Fezzik said, Oh, Inigo, I need you, please. Inigo, I'm lost and miserable and frightened. I just need to see a friendly face. They all moved slowly to the window. Wandering lost and forlorn through the prince's garden was Fezzik, leading 4 giant whites. Here, Inigo whispered. Ah, 3 friendly faces, Fezzik said, kind of bouncing up and down on his heels, which he always did when things were looking up. Oh, Inigo, I just ruined everything, and I got so lost, and when I stumbled into the stables and found these pretty horses, I thought 4 was how many of them there were, and 4 was how many of us there were too, if we found the lady. Hello, lady. And I thought, why not take them along with me, just in case we ever all run into each other? He stopped a moment, considering. And I guess we just did. Inigo was terribly excited. Fezzik, you thought for yourself, he said. Fezzik considered that a moment too. Does that mean you're not mad at me for getting lost? If we only had a ladder, Buttercup began. Oh, lady, you don't need a ladder to get down here, Fezzik said. It's only 20 feet. I'll catch you. Only do it one at a time, please. There's not enough light, so if you all come down at once, I might miss. So while Humperdinck struggled, they jumped, one at a time. And Fezzik caught them gently and put them on the whites. And he still had the key so they could get out the front gate. And except for the fact that Yellen had regrouped the brute squad, they would have gotten out without any trouble at all. As it was, when Fezzik unlocked the gate, they saw nothing but armed brutes in formation, yelling at their lead, and no one smiling. Wesley shook his head. I am dry of notions. Child's play, of all people, Buttercup said, and she led the group toward Yellen. The Count is dead. The Prince is in grave danger. Hurry now, and you may yet save them. All of you, go. Not a brute moved. They obey me, Yellen said, and I am in charge of enforcement. And And I, Buttercup said. I, she repeated, standing up in the saddle, a creature of infinite beauty, and eyes that were starting to grow frightening. I, she said for the third and last time, am the Queen! There was no doubting her sincerity, or power, or capability for vengeance. She just stared imperiously across the brute squad. "Save Humperdinck," one brute said, and with that they all dashed into the castle. "Save Humperdinck," Yellen said. The last one left, but clearly his heart wasn't in it. "Actually, that was something of a fib," Buttercup said as they began to ride for freedom. "Seeing as Lotharon hasn't officially resigned, but I thought, I am the Queen sounded better than I am the Princess." "All I can say is, I'm impressed," Wesley told her. Buttercup shrugged. "I have been going to royalty school 3 years now. Something had to rub off." She looked at Wesley. "You all right?" "I was worried about you back on the bed there. Your eyes rolled up into your head and everything." "I suppose I was dying, so I asked the Lord of permanent affection for the strength to live the day. Clearly, the answer came in the affirmative." "I didn't know there was such a fellow," Buttercup said. "Neither did I, in truth. But if he didn't exist, I didn't want to much either." The 4 great horses seemed almost to fly toward Florin Channel. "It appears to me as if we're doomed then," Buttercup said. Wesley looked at her. "Doomed, madam?" "To be together, until one of us dies." "I've done that already, and I haven't the slightest intention of ever doing it again," Wesley said. Buttercup looked at him. "Don't we sort of have to sometime?" "Not if we promise to outlive each other, and I make that promise now." Buttercup looked at him. "Oh, my Wesley, so do I." And they lived happily ever after. At least, that's what my father read to me. I remember saying, "Wow." And he looked at me and said, "You didn't like the ending?" And I said, No, it's just the ending came so suddenly that it surprised me. I thought there'd be a little bit more. I mean, was the pirate ship waiting for them? Or was it just a rumor like the book said?" My dad said, "You can complain to Mr. Morgenstern. And they live happily ever after is how it ends." Now, the truth was, this was the only instance I've ever known my father to lie to me. I spent nearly 40 years thinking that it actually ended this way, up until I did this abridgment for you. Do you want me to read the last real page to you? The real last page? That's what I thought. So here's how Morgenstern actually ends the novel. Buttercup looked at him. "Oh, my Wesley, so do I." From behind them suddenly, closer than they had imagined, they could hear the roar of Humperdinck. "Stop them! Cut them off!" They were, admittedly, startled. But there was no reason for worry. They were on the fastest horses in the kingdom, and the lead was already theirs. However, this was before Inigo's wound reopened, and Wesley relapsed again, and Fezzik took the wrong turn, and Buttercup's horse threw his shoe, and the night behind them was filled with a crescendoing sound of pursuit. That's the original Morgenstern ending. It's a Lady or the Tiger type effect, although this was way before the Lady or the Tiger. Now remember, Morgenstern was a satirist, so he left it that way. And my father was, I suppose, only keeping me from having another emotional outburst. Well, as an editor, I'm entitled to a few ideas of my own. Did they make it? Was the pirate ship still there? You can answer it for yourself, but for me, I say, yes, it was. And yes, they got away. And Wesley got his strength back. And they all had lots of adventures and more than their share of laughs. But that doesn't mean that I think that they had a happy ending either. Because in my opinion, they argued a lot. And Buttercup lost her looks eventually, and one day Fezzik lost a fight. And some hotshot kid whipped Inigo with a sword, and Wesley was never able to really sleep soundly because of Humperdinck maybe being on his trail. I'm trying not to make this a downer, okay? I mean, I really do think that love is the greatest thing in the world, except for an MLT. A mutton, lettuce, and tomato where the mutton is nice and lean and the tomatoes are ripe. They're just so perky. I love that. Anywho, I also have to say for the umpteenth time, life isn't fair. It's just fairer than death. That's all. Well, thanks for reading this awesome book with me. And I would encourage you to go out and buy it and read it to your kids. And if you ever need inspiration, just come back and watch these videos. And I'm sure you'll do just as good a job as I did. And I hope I did a good job for you. So take care, and maybe we'll see you with the next book.